Oh.
Justin!
I was like, wait, there's no. I was like, what is? It wasn't saying anything, but I'm like, oh, there's no
I,
clinking. Where's the
I lost
clinking?
I lost the bottle.
I'll add that in post.
It was thank you, CGI, another bottle in here. I lost my third one.
I'm just gonna add horse sounds. That's all I'll do. Just like the coconut sounds from Monty
Blucka,
Python.
Monty Young Frankenstein, you mean? Um, Hello and welcome.
Yes.
This is the Plague Favorites bonus episode for the month of September, and we are talking about the Warriors.
And just to
Uh,
kind of wait, hold on. I have to back up for a second
hold
because if you're an audio listener, you wouldn't even know what we're talking about because you wouldn't have seen what he was doing.
on.
So go
Did you hear
listen.
that weird
Go
scrunching
watch.
noise?
Um. So yeah,
I was doing the iconic bottle clinking together, and Luther from the Rogues group there going Warriors. Now I don't know why that's such an iconic scene, but everybody loves that scene. It's not one of my favorites. It's really weird.
I think it's just because it just keeps going. Like it's just not like one
Yes,
thing. You know, it just keeps going.
it just
And
keeps going
um,
until they move, and then they chase them, and yeah, yeah. But we're skipping literally to the very end
the
of the
very end of the
movie.
movie.
But before we do that, let us talk about the armies of the night because we're talking about the 1979. I guess it's an action thriller movie, The Warriors, directed by
Yeah,
Walter Hill.
what kind of a genre would you call this though? Like seriously, like action?
I
Not
had
to.
a I had a I had a hard time trying to classify this, and the best thing I could come up with is it's Shakespeare for gangs. You know, like it's kind of like there is something about it that's like uh, I don't know. It's Shakespeare in a dystopian future. You know, with gang warfare in New York City. And I mean,
Yeah,
this was made in a time where like gang warfare was like an actual thing, like legit street gangs in New York. But this
yep.
was supposedly taking place in the future, right? So like the movie takes place in the future,
Like
even
where?
though
What
it's talking
future though?
about
The 90s? Like the 80s? Like
I don't know. It like I believe I've watched the director's commentary on the movie. In the special edition, there's even like a new intro. I don't know if I showed you the DVD that I have has like a special intro, and they changed the transitions of the movie to make it look more comic booky. So they actually like include comic book panels to like kind of
hmm,
switch between scenes. It's okay, but in the beginning it says like sometime in the near future is all it says in the beginning. That's all that they've added to it. It's like sometime in the future. So I don't know. It's a pre-cell phone era though, for sure, because I'm sure all their problems could be solved if one of them had a cell phone or even a PDA.
yeah, I mean
But
it is kind of a weird thing. It's like it's just I don't know. It's a but yeah, you know I think I watched this movie with my wife last night, Amber, and she wasn't planning on watching this movie with me. That was never the intention. I just like I gotta watch this movie, so I'm gonna put it on. She's like, okay, I get it. You know, so I think her mind was like, I'm gonna sit here and look at my phone or read a book or something. But like it just like she just got hooked. She got like so hooked into this movie. She's like couldn't stop. I was like, I can't stop watching this. I don't know why. Like I
there
just
is, yeah, man, there is something about this movie that's just so like fun and like fascinating, right? Like the dialogue is all weird, you know, like they're speaking almost like a different language.
hmm
And they said that the book Saul that because this is based on a book by Saul Urich that was written in 1965 by the same name. I guess it's a pretty decent book, but a lot of the language that they use in the movie is from that, and it's kind of like it's like he was imagining what gang speak would be like in the future, like what slang would be in the future. So like words like bopper, like that's a big one.
well,
Getting made or getting japped or any of the terms that they use.
and
It's like
as you say that
it's
though,
from the book.
it's kind of interesting because like we obviously did a whole bonus episode on the Batman Returns and the way that lingo in the gang in there they have a different dialect and a different way of speaking. So it's like
Oh, the mutants, yeah, from
you
the
know
Dark Knight Returns. Yes.
that perception of like what gangs and codes and like you know their own specific personas, right? I was joking, you know, we were obviously going to go in the nitty gritty of this in a minute, but like I was kind of partially joking when you like see each kind of gang and like the requirements to be in the gang. It wasn't. It's just like, well, you pick this. It's like picking a class in a video game. It's like, well, you got to wear a baseball outfit. You gotta wear roller skate. You gotta have roller skates, or does the leader only get roller skates? I don't know. I wasn't quite sure on that
Oh my
one, but
God.
like,
I got to tell
we'll
you,
get
I
there.
have a lot to say about that gang. They were secretly my favorite gang, I guess, on this last time because I watched it
But
just recently as well,
mhm.
and it was just yeah,
So
like if you're a baseball fury, do you have to argue over like what colors you get? Like, no, you can't use red and blue. Gary's already using red and blue. You got to pick two different. You got to do red
and
and
what
pink. I'm
and
sorry.
I mean, I have to say they're the most like they probably have the best like morning routine out of all the gangs, right? Because they have to do that every morning, right? Put that paint on
Morning.
and like, or do they sleep like that? I mean, how long is that paint? It looks pretty clean and flat. Like they've just
Yeah, they get into fights and stuff, and it doesn't like chip away or melt or anything. It's good. It's good paint they're using.
well,
I don't know. I imagine them like getting out of work at 5 o'clock and all putting on their makeup and going to the hideout.
yeah,
Going to
yeah.
their basement hideout.
So I
Oh,
know, I
lots
know.
of
Before
questions.
we get into the story of this, or the concept, I know we want to do something different in this episode a little bit. Maybe like, since we're talking about all the different gangs, maybe we can have someone else kind of list them all off for us. What do you think?
Yeah. For maybe if you're like vaguely familiar with this or you're not familiar at all with this, so you're not completely in the dark. So Justin, you prepared a
Have
little
a,
something for us to watch.
I have to do my little transition. I'm all
So
excited.
we are going to watch the trailer.
Yes, we're gonna watch the trailer. For the
Mhm.
listeners, you can hear the trailer, and I'm leaning over because I can't see the play button. I have two computers for the first time for the show, and I'm
The
about to play it.
graphics.
So if you want to, watch along with us, go ahead and check out the video version of this. But obviously, you're going to be able to hear it, and maybe we'll see what kind of genre movie this is based on. But I doubt he's going to say
Oh,
anything.
it's definitely a chase movie, man. So it's a thriller.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's play.
Oh yeah. You got to make sure you look up. It's above our heads. So,
Oh,
ready? Play.
is it coming in?
It is now coming in.
Isn't that cool? Satan's mothers, the hurricanes,
are the
You know all
armies
the
of the
names.
night.
many of them.
Can you dig it?
What do you know about Cyrus?
I really
What
wish
do you
I
know about
had more.
Cyrus?
I really wanted more
The
out of Cyrus.
Furies,
Just a little bit
I
more,
know.
the
Like,
Boppers,
well, every warrior asked the question in the beginning. What do you know about Cyrus?
Yeah.
The hi hats,
the Lizzies,
the Lizzies,
It's kind of showing too
The
much of the movie
Turnbull
right there, I
ACs.
think. Throwing Lizzie's
right?
off like
Turnbull ACs.
the Gramercy Riffs,
Yeah, right.
that. They have like a literally an
and
army. It's
these
like
are the
scary how big
Warriors.
their army
We
is.
know
Yeah,
about
they
the
are.
Warriors.
Who knew
Yeah,
that there
they
was like a secret kung fu army in the Bronx?
Warriors. You guys are the big dudes,
Big
huh?
dude.
Now,
The big
they're
dude.
in the Bronx,
We're going back.
27 miles
They gotta
behind
bop their
enemy
way back,
lines.
Justin.
It's the only choice we got.
Between them and safety stand 20,000 cops.
20,000 cops.
I don't think they're all working
That's
tonight.
not the
I'm
right
just
number. Is
gonna
that the
say
right number? 20,000 cops? Is that the right number?
that's what Cyrus says. That there's only 20,000 cops in the whole dang town, and there's 60,000 hardcore soldiers. So they outnumber them. But I love the way they run with their bats.
Yeah. What's that? Hey, there
That
you
wasn't
go.
in the movie.
You're
That's like
right.
a deleted scene. I don't remember that dude's fancy.
No, he was in there. I was there last night. Like that,
They've got
the
one
one
night.
to the bus.
Oh, here it is.
The
Here it is.
Warriors.
Nice little freeze. See, it is a chase movie. It's got to be a thriller.
Yeah.
When you hold on them running away like that, the screen going up.
Such a good trailer. You know, we're gone. We swiped away. We're back to just us. No more warrior frozen images. But yeah, no, we just thought we'd watch that along. It'd be kind of fun just to get you a taste of what the Warriors really is, because that's a really good trailer. Honestly, it kind of really boils it down pretty much to the simplicity that it is.
I mean, it's really not a terribly complex story. There's like little things in there that you're kind of like wanting to see what happens and see unfold, but it's a very like straightforward story. So I mean, like let's just talk the gist of it. Like the Warriors, I guess we can start even bigger. Warriors are like a reasonably well-known gang in Coney Island.
Mm-hmm.
They get invited to the conclave in the Bronx, and this conclave is held by the Gramercy Riffs, led by Cyrus, who's the guy yelling, "Can you dig it?" And the whole point is his objective is to unite all the gangs to like put aside their turf war and their differences from the past, and to have like a general truce, which they have. They sent like delegates to come to this meeting, so there's a truce on. But to keep the truce going and then take over one borough at a time and secure the city and basically like
plan. It's a good plan.
It is a good plan. Like if it was organized, like if they were really in charge and if it really went through, I mean, they do have the numbers. They as he says, they own the streets, suckers.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, we could tax the police, we could tax the mafia. You know, nothing would happen in the city without us allowing it to happen. And it's a good idea. And then right in the middle of people just like absolutely loving this idea and cheering, and you saw some of that in the trailer, Cyrus is shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And right from the beginning, we know who shot him. It's the character, his name is Luther. Luther? Or no, Luther. Yeah, it's Luther, not Luthor. I was going to call him Lex Luthor. No, it's Luther. And he's, I don't know if he's the leader. I think he's the leader of the gang called the Rogues. And to tell you the truth, Dustin, I still have no idea why he shot him. Like, what's his true motive? It's like Iago from...
I just wanna...
Yeah, like, no reason. I just like doing things like that. So...
Well, my thing, the only bad thing about this whole plan of Cyrus is like, let's invite a ton of people to this like public gathering, where they're chanting and screaming. Of course, the police are gonna find out. I guess it probably was a noise complaint or something like that.
I really actually like the way the police show up too, right? Like they come in the cars, like the engines are off and the lights are off, and they're just kind of like rolling in. You know, very quietly, so they're like coming around. So you know, it's like this big moment of tension because Cyrus is giving his speech and people are getting excited and cheering. You know, the cops are around, and then Luther shoots him, and all hell breaks loose. And I love this opening scene. Like right from the beginning when they introduce the Warriors, they just drop you in the middle of it with like Cleon just saying like, "It's still on, we're going," and you know. I like when movies do that, just like kind of like put you in a moment, and you kind of just like figure it out as you go.
Well, that's what I was noticing as I watched it again, because really I have only played this. I haven't seen this since the first time you ever showed it to me, and I just never watched it.
It's been a while, probably.
And I mean, it wasn't like I didn't like it. I just never watched it again, and because you really kind of get the gist of it in that one watching, I guess. But this one was probably a lot better of an experience than the first time I watched it. I think is because I kind of knew what to expect a little bit. But like the one thing I noticed, it's like you're really kind of just like thrown, like the beginning where they're just like, who's Cyrus, what's Cyrus? Like in a normal like modern day movie, I feel like that would have been the first like 30 minutes of the movie of just like learning about the invitation. Like, hey, we got this thing, like showing who the Warriors are a little bit, get to know them a little bit. It's like, oh, we got this invitation to this big meeting, and that's the climax, right? That's the big moment that results them to get home. But like they don't do that for this movie. The whole movie is that, right? You just kind of start off with them just getting you don't really need that much information, right? It's like, who's Cyrus? Why are we doing this? Oh yeah, it just seems like a good idea. Like, let's go. You know, and like,
it's their little conversations, like 1 or 2 sentence exchanges with each other as they're on the train leading to the conclave that gives you everything you need to know. Like you find out like Ajax is kind of kind of an asshole, also kind of like a
waste some heads,
just like brute force dude. Yeah, and he lives up to that name, like Ajax from the Trojan War. He's just a hulking dude who wants to fight, and he has some of the choicest lines in the whole movie. He's got some deep seated issues, I think, that Ajax.
Yeah, but he gets it a little bit. Like he gets it in a good way, I think. Like the way he gets it, we can get to that too. But like you can jump around.
How his story resolves.
Yeah, sure. But like,
that is funny.
Yeah.
I watched that scene and I was like, this wouldn't happen. we could talk about that a little bit later.
But no, I just one thing is like thing that like Amber was making a point about, because I mean it was kind of interesting watching her perspective, to be honest. That made this really even more enjoyable. But like she's like, it's like I can't. There's nothing wrong with this movie. Like it's well made. Like the visuals are really amazing. The cinematography, right? The music. It is
sound design too.
Yeah, it's technically, and if you think about it, it's a musical. There's a bunch of like good hits that kind of work for scenes.
A lot of
that,
good
like,
music.
It's like it's just the way the music is played. There is that sense of music with like the radio station. Like, do you have that kind of like it's like,
and the Carmen Sandiego DJ.
Yes, it's like
that's her.
It's Carmen. Like, that's her.
That's the chief from the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego show when we were kids. Yeah, like the game show with the like you have to she'd be like, "Good news, gumshoes."
Wow.
Like that's her. I'm so glad I blew your mind.
No, but that's funny because Amber's like, that mouth looks really familiar.
So whenever she says like "good news, boppers," just think to yourself, "Good news, gumshoes." Like it's the same lady. She's awesome. She's done like her voiceover work is great. I don't know what else she's done besides this, but I love her voice work.
It's just the visuals of all those things are so well put together, and just like because there's a lot of running scenes. Obviously, we talked about it as a chase movie, but like the way they handle the running scenes are very like it's well done because they're groups. They don't just show like close-ups of them running all the time. It's like, let's just show them where they came from. So like you have this shot of like the top of a staircase and then zigzagging down it. And then, but like in the same shot, it shows like the other group chasing them too. I'm like, that's beautiful.
I love seeing like it's good because you're not just like watching the same thing. It doesn't feel repetitive, and like there's that moment where you're like seeing the other gang chase them or like catching up to them.
Yeah.
But I love there's like one part where they like kind of like go up the stairs. And then, like, the camera just kind of pans a little bit, and you see them just coming out, like, on a bridge, like, over it.
Yeah.
It's like, even though for, like, a couple seconds, nothing is happening, and the camera is just focused on, like, a little bridge, the music is pumping, and you're, like, excited, You're, like, your adrenaline's going, too, and you're like, oh, are they going to get away? And even though they're gone and nobody's on camera for a moment, like, it's still tense. You still feel the tension of the moment and like the thrill of the chase.
Well, the nice thing, I think this is what makes you kind of like so deep into this film and like talking it an overview is because of how you're brought into it. So you don't really know the warriors, right? You have you kind of know who the leader is, sort of, but you really don't even know that Swan is the second in command until later, until the leader's gone, right? And like I think that leads that kind of storytelling where you're just like, well, I have no idea, I have no attachments to any of these characters. I can kind of like, you kind of have some people you root for a little bit just by their demeanor, right? But like, I don't really know who's important here. Who is the important one? So you don't even know really how it's going to resolve. Are they all going to make it? When you start losing people, it's like, who's going to make it? Like, you don't even know. It's like, there's not that like one character. This is the protagonist. Like Swan maybe is that. But like, you really, with the way the story was broken up and kind of separated and told, it's like, well, maybe he might not make it. It's like I could see them doing that in this film.
It would be. It's interesting to think like that. Like any one of them could just fall off or get caught because they do. And right from the beginning, not like this is any kind of huge spoiler for the movie, but right in the beginning, during the conclave when Cyrus is shot. Luther, he's seen by the Fox, right? The Fox. He's the only, as far as we know, he's the only person that saw Luther shoot Cyrus. And Luther sees that, and he goes to shoot the Fox, and then the cops hit the strobe light or like the spotlights, and then everybody starts running. But the rogues know, like, oh crap, the warriors know, so we got to blame this on the warriors. So he sees Cleon, who for some reason wanted to go see Cyrus's dead body. He just like comes over and he's all sad and like, and then he's like, he's the one. You did it. You did it. Like he's just such a schoolyard bully. It sounds like, but then they start to like believe him, and the Riffs attack him, and then sadly, Cleon is elbowed to death because that's the only like he's dead, I guess, but like all you see is a bunch of guys doing this around him in a circle.
Just like
Like I
power
know the
driving with an
riffs
elbow.
are right. I know that I know that they're the kung fu gang in the Bronx, but I figure maybe a well placed kick might work there too. It's like no, they were just gonna elbow him to death.
So do we know who Cyrus's gang is?
Yeah,
Like this,
he's the president of the
is
Riffs.
he the president of the Wiz? Okay, I
Yes.
thought that, but I wasn't quite sure. So
The other guy with the sparkly jacket from the trailer, he takes over. He's the second in command, and his name is Masai. But he does Masai. Yeah, he takes over for Cyrus. But yeah, Cyrus is the and that's you get that in the beginning when the warriors are asking like, "What do you know about Cyrus?" And they're like, "Magic, pure magic." One of them says, "When you're the president of the biggest gang in New York City, you don't have to take shit from anybody."
That's true.
So that already sets you up like you're talking about like the most powerful gang with a meeting with just about every important gang in the city. I love that conclave scene too, man. Like I love just seeing they don't feel like extras, they feel like characters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because they're all in their gang colors. They don't but they look serious too. Like as Cyrus is talking, they're all like leaning forward and like really intently listening. I love it. I feel like everybody that worked on this movie like took an extra like went the extra mile to make it look good.
Now, do you know if the actor of Cyrus is related to The Rock in some way? Because he looks
no, but I do know he's actually dead. Like I forget his name, but rest in peace, Cyrus.
He just looks so
he's
much
the
like
one
The
and
Rock.
only.
He looks so much like The Rock.
Very similar. He could be Samoan. I don't know, but I don't know. You have to IMDb him and find out.
Okay.
But
yeah, the beginning's really good. It's just like you get this amazing event and really awesome speech. Honestly, the delivery of the actor who played Cyrus is such a. I mean, I feel like that scene's more memorable to me. Like his just delivery and speech and how it's shot.
The most,
and,
it's the most talking one character does in the whole film. Like his monologue is like the longest monologue really in the film. It feels like because they talk so little. The warriors like it's like they all know each other, so they just communicate very simply. Like we're just gonna like nobody run their mouth. Everybody be cool, and that's it. That's all you have to say, and then they move on. But yeah, it's the biggest monologue I think in the film. It's hearing Cyrus's speech about uniting the gangs, but tragically cut short. So I don't know who Luther is talking to on the phone so tenderly, but he's like, how are ya? Yeah, no, it was terrible. Yeah, the Warriors, man. Yeah, we're gonna be looking for them. Take care of yourself. It's like, take care of yourself. Like, what the hell? You just murdered a man.
I thought like he was talking to the cop or something. Like he sold out the whole thing or something like that. But I don't know. After watching the whole movie, you don't. Who knows?
Oh,
I don't think he knows.
You're looking a little fuzzy on my end. So why don't we do a quick cheers here? I'm just gonna cheers you.
Cheers.
Why don't you fix your
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that. To be honest, I guess bring my camera closer. I moved it, so. But oh well. You could just got some Photoshop on my face. It's okay.
Looks like you've
but
got
no, when you first see him after that, that's a great scene from him personally. And it's like he comes over, he gets his candy, and he starts like just unwrapping it, very, very like slowly, but yet very aggressively. It's like he doesn't. It's like that's really extreme.
He doesn't know how to open it.
I'm gonna get this candy open, but he doesn't ever really do anything. But yeah. So it's like, and then the lady's like, aren't
you gonna pay for that?
And he's like, what's he say? Goes, what?
Yes, he says, aren't you going to pay for those? He goes, for what? And he throws it at her. And then they leave. And it's like, okay. All right. Fine. They're a strange group. I like the Rogue Mobile, though. Their car with all its graffiti. It's like an old-fashioned Cadillac. I like the Rogue Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
It's their one strength is that they have a car. No other gang has a car. Everyone else has to walk.
It is weird though. It's like you got the one guy that's obviously Luther. He's like dressed very differently than the rest of the group, right? Like they're all like wearing black.
Yep.
and he's got the
He's
jean
got a
jacket.
jean jacket. And
It's like there's always that, like, you know, in the war, even the Warriors, like you wouldn't, like at first, like, I think the first time I watched that movie, I didn't, like, or maybe I just didn't remember, but it's like I didn't really connect that the Warriors meant in like a Native American. But then you see the headdress, you know.
Yep. And one of them is named Cochise, which is a Native American
Well,
chieftain, I
Swan
believe.
probably is too, right?
I'm sure there's some
Connection to all of them.
But I do like what you were saying before about how like there's different classes of warriors. So like Swan and Ajax, or no, I'm sorry, Snow. He's the other like the strong silent type. Snow and Ajax are like the bruisers. Like Cowboy and the Fox are like their like scouts,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have just soldiers like Vermin and Cochise, and I know all their names.
Is Vernon the guy that doesn't look like he should be there? Like, there's one warrior
Yeah,
that's...
he's like the eccentric, like Woody Allen type almost. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, come on, guys, like, why are we like? Oh my god, I hate waiting for trains. And they're like, Vermin, sit down and shut up. He's like, okay.
It's like,
I guess that's why he's called Vermin. I don't know. Like, he's just really annoying.
He's just like him, and the guy with the hat doesn't really fit in that much, but he fits in more than
Cowboy.
him. Like, he just, like, I don't know, he just looks at the way his demeanor and the way he just, like, looks so dumbfounded, like
Yeah. He's got a permanent dumb face on. But like, isn't that great? Like in the very beginning when they're just showing them on the train, like on their way to the conclave, like somebody like Ajax takes his hat and he gets all like flustered and like gets his hat back, and it's like you learn these like little character traits about them. It's like, okay, Cowboy always needs his hat. He loves his hat. All right, I get it. But and Ajax is like boxing the little like thing that you hang on to in the subway. Like he can't help it. He's always like looking for a fight. It's like these little tiny things.
Yeah.
Walter Hill, the director, he's done other movies, but I don't think he's done a movie as good as this one. I feel like just like everything has a purpose, you know, like the music has a purpose, the sound effects, everything is like working towards the same goal of creating this atmosphere.
Yep.
I just love it, man. It's unlike anything else I've seen. Yeah, so I'm just gonna like randomly break into why I love the movie as we go through the plot. So,
you could, yeah, and you know, one thing I want to add, because like, we almost kind of, so we talked about the beginning, and obviously they all kind of run away, and then they I don't think initially they don't really know that they're being like hunted, except for cops and going through territory and bop their way back, right?
Yeah. They were wondering because there was a truce on.
Yep.
And when they're trying to get to that first train and they get chased by the Turnbull ACs, that's when they're like, okay, well, I guess the truce is off. Yeah. They don't know that they're specifically hunting the warriors, but they just think like the truce is off. So that means if they're going into enemy territory, they could be hurt.
I do want to touch on something that we kind of pointed out when we were watching it last night. Amber, me and we were just started laughing about it. So they stop in a graveyard after the whole thing, right? They're in a graveyard.
Yep.
First off, they're extremely sweaty for that. Like, Swan is just drenched in sweat.
They're all like
but they
glistening.
Run way more later, and they don't get as drenched as that one scene for some reason. It just
they get rained on. You remember at one point they were like running through the rain and they're all soaked, and then like in the next scene, all their hair is perfectly coiffed and back to normal like it was. You know. But they're all dry and looking good.
So that's the one moment, because like obviously before it's like the leaders like make sure they you tag everywhere. We want to make sure everyone knows that we're here. So he tags with some grave or something like that. And Amber's like, you think he'd make a better W? Like, it's really just a W. It's not that big of a deal. I'm like, well, Amber, come on. It's just tagging shorthand because they're on the run. They can't. That's just what they do on the run. Like they can't spend that time, so they got to put something there. So it's just shorthand. Yep. Shorthand tagging.
It's just a quick one. He doesn't have time for a big, like, a big piece, a burner. Like, listeners, we've also, like, I've played I had the game for PlayStation 2, The Warriors, made by Rocksteady. Rockstar, not Rocksteady. Rockstar Games.
Rocksteady would be a good version of that, too, though.
It would be the fighting elements in there? Yeah, that would be fun.
The beating up stuff, yeah.
Oh, man, that would be so good. So the Rockstar game is very fun, but I forgot what we were talking about that made me want to bring up the game.
Tagging, maybe.
Oh, yeah, because that's like a mini game in it. Like when you go around and you snuff out other gangs tags and put your own up and work on these big pieces, and you need like 6 cans of spray paint to do it. It's hard work. So yeah, Amber, it's hard to write a W on a gravestone when you've been chased by, like the police.
It's
Oh,
just funny. It's
so
just funny. That's all.
so from there they get they escaped the Turnbull ACs. They were waiting to get onto the train, and they were like, okay, we're just about home free. We're going to change trains at Union Station or Union Square, and there's a big sense of relief. But somebody sets a fire right on the train tracks, like, which forces them out.
Yep.
So that's when they who do they? Oh, that's when they come alongside when they encounter the orphans.
Yeah.
Right? They get dumped into this territory by a lower level group. So low they're not even on the radar, as they say. So low that they're like the second in command has like the one article that's written about them in the newspaper, and he shows it to them like, here, bring him the article, show him the newspaper clipping. And he's like, see, they write about us in the newspapers. It's like, yeah, all right.
Well, that's also where they meet the love interest, right?
Mercy.
Mercy.
Yes.
Is there any Mercy?
Yeah.
Mercy?
Yes, her name is Mercy.
It was a girl from the trailer. Like, the Warriors, you guys are with the big dudes.
You're the big dudes.
You're the big dudes. And then really, in the trailer, it sounds like she's like really excited, but she's like messing with him, isn't she? Isn't that sort of what she's doing? She's like being sarcastic in the movie.
I think so. But they come in, and I guess there's all this protocol about like a gang walking through another gang's territory. So they kind of stop, and they see a bunch of the orphans, and their leader comes over, named Sully, and his name is Sully, like Monsters Inc. There, not as cool as that Sully, but he's definitely.
I was thinking Uncharted actually, but yeah, that works too.
So he like comes over, and they're kind of like parlaying, and he's like, well, if you guys don't, if you're not soldiering down here, like, if you come in peace, go ahead. Then Mercy starts clucking like a chicken, which is the weirdest clucking scene I've ever seen. I almost think like it was recorded later, because she's just like just make bucking noises with your mouth. We'll put the sounds in later. It's a very good chicken impersonation. I'm just saying. But the orphans like are trying to challenge them to a fight eventually, and they're like, we're just gonna walk through these lame fucks territory. That's what Swan says. I love that.
Yeah, because
they throw a Molotov cocktail, and that solves everything. It scares them off.
Yeah, I love how it's just like they're just like standing there, and then like they all know what to do, and it's like, well, he rips off the lighter like from Mercy's dress.
Yeah, he takes a piece of fabric and they wrap it around their like bottle of gasoline.
It's kind of crazy because it's like you get these moments like, oh man, like they were a little bit more risque with movies back in the 70s, but they really kind of cut it off right at the right moment. It's like, oh, I see what you did there, because I forgot that like he just is like just getting the skirt from her just to make the Molotov.
Yeah, because he like comes up on her.
Yeah.
And then she eventually follows them after that. Like they throw something, the car catches on fire and explodes, and it scares them away. I love it because they're like they really are a lower level group, because they're like, we're gonna rain on you.
Well, I love when
they don't do anything. They just set something on fire. And they're like, let's get out of here.
No, well, because you got the obviously we talked about the Carmen Sandiego lady doing the broadcast, right? But that's being delivered from the Riffs, because they want the Warriors because he found out. But every time like he gets news, it's like, yeah, they lost him, but it's like the orphans, they got wasted. I'm like, really? They got wasted? How?
Yeah, they were. Well, they weren't anything to begin with, so.
Like, oh, they're not.
But
they're not in our network.
Oh yes, when they ran into some two-bit crew called the Orphan. They're not in our network. Yeah. I love Masai. That we didn't talk about that scene, but like him, the remainder of the riffs they're talking about. And he's like, who are the Warriors? And like it's all silent. He's like, I want them all. I want all the Warriors.
Like,
the
alive.
way they say things,
like with alive, preferably
alive if possible, if not wasted. But I want them.
So good.
Send the word, and then it's the first time you see the radio DJ. She's great though. She's like the story beat, kind of like the chorus,
Yeah,
kind of telling you
and the
like
visuals are
what
so good.
happened. And
The visuals are so good with that too. It's like every time you get that,
Mhm.
it's like it kind of just takes it takes away. It's a good segue from slowness
Deep
to
breath,
you
kind of
know
like relax a moment.
yeah, because it always leads into some sort of song or something like that that just sort of helps. You know, it's almost it makes it episodic in a weird way. Like you could probably make this like a show with like the one night like kind of a thing, but
Yep,
um.
yep,
But then they get split up, right? Isn't that where we're at
yep.
now?
This is where we get the big split up. So they, after that, they're heading to the station. They get there, but then the police are there. So then they all have to scatter. So Vermin, Cochise, and Rembrandt go. They actually make the train that they were trying to get to Union Square because that's where they changed trains. So they make it to the train, and they're on their way. But Ajax, Snow, and Cowboy are chased by, and Swan are chased by. They exit the station. They just come out into Riverside Park, and that's when they encounter the baseball furies.
Yep.
Mercy and the Fox are together for a little bit, but then sadly we lose the Fox.
Yeah, that's like such a like again like that's the point where it's like you start realizing it's like oh you're never gonna get like this long drawn out like loss of a character. It's just like
Nope.
oh he dead. He's just
Yep.
he's
He
just
hit by a
dead.
train. He's gone, and she manages to escape. But yeah, they get
Yeah.
separated as well.
In any other like movie you'd watch though too, like when they do something like that, it's like oh he'll come back somehow he survived because they didn't give him that like you know that honorable death, but nope he dead.
Nope. And it's sad too because I think like the Fox seems like he's the logistics guy. He's like he's the the negotiator, the one that has like a lot of knowledge. He like knows all the gangs and knows all like the rules. He's kind of like the consigliere to the Godfather. He's his right
Yep.
hand man. And to lose him, I was like, wow, that's a big. As I'm watching this last night, I'm like, wow, that's a big blow to the Warriors as an organization to lose the Fox.
Yeah.
He's like the first one to die. But then we get our first really good chase and really good chase music of Ajax, Swan, Snow, and Cowboy coming out of Riverside Park, and they're waiting for them in the streets. Are the baseball furies just like hitting bats against their fists, just waiting for them?
And it's funny because
Love that.
one of them has baseballs in his hand. Like what's he like ready to throw?
Does he? Oh my
Yeah.
god, I didn't even notice
There's one
that.
that has like a baseball. Like he's like in the front and he's just like holding baseballs, like two of them or something like that. Like I'm just like
I didn't know that.
like that's what it made me start wondering is like what decides the gang? Like do they just steal a sports store and they just like that was their first hit, so they just decided like, well, we're the baseball furies because we robbed.
We really like baseball.
Yeah, it's like or like even like the hi hats. You know, it's like they're so ridiculous, right? They're just like.
So in the game, they flesh out the hi hats a little bit more. They're the gang from Soho, so they're the artistes, from the art district. So, so they're mimes. It's a gang of mimes, ladies and gentlemen, called the hi hats.
I really wish we got more of the boppers in the movie, though. The boppers.
Yeah, there is a gang just called the Boppers. They have those sweet purple shiny vests.
Yeah, they're in
and
the
like those
trailer.
awesome hats.
Yep. No,
there are a lot of good gangs out there.
Baseball Furies are fun. They're definitely fun, but I love the thing with the Warriors. It's like they seem like such a. I mean, obviously they got Coney Island, and that's their territory. If we haven't said that yet, but like, it's like they seem like a big deal, but not like as big as the Riffs or even like some of the other ones like that are in the. They don't seem like way up there, right?
Mm-mm.
But
they're like they're like just breaking onto the scene. So the game actually gives you like it starts before the conclave. It starts like a couple weeks before it, and it shows how they gain the reputation to be, invited to the conclave. Like one of the major gangs, the Saracens, like they're in the intro. They're the guys with like blue tank tops. I don't know how else to describe them, but they do a favor. Like the Warriors do some work with them, and they're like, "There's a big meeting coming up in the Bronx, and if you want, we'll put in a good word for you with the Riffs." They're like, "Yeah, that would be great," and so they get the invite. They're like, "Okay," it's like the Warriors are on their way up. They're on their way,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like they were going to be like not just like a pretty well known, but soon to be like a very well known group. But yeah, that gets cut short with
but
them
like
being
they
blamed
kind of show that
Osiris
though,
and
like with their I mean, with the orphans, it was just kind of funny. It's like that's just kind of showing that like these guys are just a bunch of wimps, and we can destroy them in 2 seconds because we know what to do. Like we have Molotov, just throw it. They're too scared. They know what to do.
Let's see what they do. Yeah,
But
let's see if we just
their
add some
plan,
fire.
their plan with the baseball furies, though you could kind of like pick apart like how it's possible to do this, is the idea they just without even saying anything, right? They just do the split up to flank them from behind. And thin out their numbers, right?
Well, Swan does say he just goes Snow with me, like in what do you call it, ADR,
right.
like audio recorded after, he says like Snow with me, and then they just like take off, and then they see them coming from behind. Yeah, like it's smart, like they know what to do. It's like they have a plan for if we're fighting and we're outnumbered, how do we turn the odds in our favor. Yeah, man, it's a really good chase. And then and Ajax does a good job of fighting the leader there.
Yep.
He tells him, he's like, I'll turn, take that baseball bat and stick it up your, turn you into a popsicle. Like, very good. And then he does. He doesn't do that part, but
this is why
beats him.
This made our favorite fight episode, right?
Yes. This is an awesome fight. It's awesome because you're like, the Baseball Furies must be one of the toughest gangs, and they all have baseball bats, and still the Warriors are able to beat them. So it's very satisfying. But immediately after that, Ajax F's up because, I don't know, he's feeling victorious. And he sees some lady who looks like she's fallen asleep on a park bench. And he's like, I'll catch up with you guys. And they're like, no, there's plenty of women back home. This woman also looks to be like 30 years his elder. If you ask me, not 30, like 20 years his elder. But it's totally entrapment, by the way. She's like, hey, you want to sit with me? And he's like, okay, lady. Are you okay? Do you need any help? And then she's like, oh, what big muscles you have. I'm sure you show the chicks how to play. Why don't you show me how you play with the chicks? And up until that point, I'm like, Ajax, you are being set up. You are being framed for something.
Yep.
You're being lured in. This is entrapment. And then he like basically punches her in the boob. He goes for a boob grab that is like basically like a falcon punch to the boob.
He went from like 0 to 3. He did a 360. It's like he was like tripped on himself. But
I just want to tell you, I wrote in my notes, "Damn Ajax with the boob punch." That's the dominant impression I got from that scene.
Boy. What do they call like getting with a girl in this their dialogue though? It's like do we want to train or something like that, or like
that's a different thing.
Girls to ride the train with or something. I don't know what they say.
Okay, well that's what Ajax says to Mercy. She he grabs her and she's like, "What are you gonna jump me?"
Yeah.
And he says, and he looks at her. He's like, "We should run a train on you. You'd look like you'd probably like it." And running a train,
Swan,
if you did, Swan says that.
Okay.
That's back with the orphans, like as they were about to throw the Molotov, like right before that scene. Running a train, it means that like the whole group of them will have sex with her, one after the other. It's a very terrifying thing, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's weird because you're rooting for these warriors that are probably not good people. Like,
no, I guess they're like noble, but they're
like it's
still pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But the scene with the police officer. Oh, what Ajax says in the beginning, he's like, it's a good thing about going down to the Bronx. Maybe we'll meet some strange wool. And I've always thought, I was like, that is such a weird way of saying we'll meet girls. Like, we'll find some new women. Like, we'll find some strange wool. And it's like, oh, geez, that sounds so gross. But the other group that was split up was Cochise Vermin and Rembrandt. Rembrandt is just so gay, man. Like, let's take Rembrandt out of the closet. We know Rembrandt's gay, right? Like, he's not like
is that the guy with the spray paints, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's fine. It's clear that the Warriors don't care. They have him in his gang because he's a good artist. He can't bop, but he's a good artist.
Can't bop. Hey, he does it. He
Um,
handles his own a little bit later with his spray can.
he does help. He does help. But like uh, Rembrandt, Cochise, and Vermin, they get off the train and they're like, "Well, we got to wait here. See what happens. We'll wait for the rest to get here. We got separated." And they see a group of girls like across the way,
Just
just
all
like
like staring
smiling
and
and
like.
winking and like, "Hey," like, like just basically like doing the "come hither." And so they're like, "Oh, we got time. Like, let's go hang out with these girls." And what was your impression of this scene? Taking them back to this, I don't know, warehouse party, apartment party?
I mean, I don't really have much of an impression. I mean, I've seen it before, so watching it again, I don't know. I don't remember what my initial impression was, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, you find out that the gang's name is the Lizzies. It's an
Yeah,
all-girl gang. They do
yeah,
some strange dance ritual
yep,
thing. Remember?
yeah.
You
No,
see
it's
that?
yeah, definitely a bunch of lesbians. I guess I'm assuming. Like that's what my impression would be,
I don't know if I got that
or
impression so much
maybe.
as
Well, with a weird, stranging dance thing, they look like they were.
maybe some of them are, but there's certainly some tough ladies in that group. Uh, and yes, the one that comes up and asks Rembrandt to dance. She's like, "Hey, little man, do you want to dance?" Like, Jesus, all right. He's definitely not interested. He's the one, like, he's like the annoying friend that you take with you to a party. He's like, "When can we go?
Yeah,
Like, we don't need to be here. Why
yeah,
are we here?"
yeah.
And they're like, "What? What are you doing?
I mean, to
No,
his
no, we
defense,
just
he
got
has a
here."
really good reason. I mean, it's like they are kind of like they really need to go. They shouldn't be there.
It's like the sirens, they lured them in to
Yeah,
their doom. So the Lizzies are the ones though that clue them in that they've been accused of killing Cyrus,
yes,
because they're like, "Oh yeah, warriors, big heavy rap, like, so why'd you do it? Why'd you kill Cyrus?" And they're like, "What?" And then you see like the guns, and it's like, "Shit, the chicks are packed. The chicks are packed, but they're terrible shots.
yes, terrible shot. I mean, I was
There
saying,
are two girls with guns shooting at them in a room,
and that's
and
what
they
I was saying to
miss.
Amber. It's just like, man, they're in such a close quarters situation,
Yes,
and
like not
somehow
even a grazing.
he gets cut with a knife. He doesn't even get hit
Hmm.
by the gun. He gets hit by a knife. It's like I got cut. I
She
got
cut me. She
cut.
cut me.
Poor Rembrandt. That was my spray pan on. Now I can't make W's.
If that scene came later, then I would be using that to rationalize. I'm like, well, clearly
He
his
got it. Yeah.
spraying hand was affected, but no, he's
It's
got no
it's
excuse.
like the defense of like how did Ray beat Kylo Ren? Well, he was injured. He was hurt.
Rembrandt is such a Mary Jane. Uh, but so I mean, you get a lot of other. Um, you get the Swan and Mercy love story, which is very awkward and very weird. But you do get that kind of cool scene with the prom dates. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, I
What
like
did you
that scene.
What did you
I
think of
actually
that?
I
Like,
was gonna bring I wanted to bring that up because I thought I don't remember that from the first viewing. At least it didn't stick with me. I guess when I first watched it with you, but
mhm.
now like watching it again, I'm just like, wow, that was like a legit like good justification of like the way he shoots it, like showing the feet, showing their feet, like her beat up and they
Yep.
look so drained and just broken. It's like that's like living on the streets versus actually having a good life. And then this is why they're in the world that they're in, right? This is why they're
Yep.
where they are, and it's like it almost like that's where you almost get your kind of sense of like what's the word I'm trying to say, like compassion towards the Warriors because it's like, oh, it sucks to be the Warriors in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're a
Yep.
gang, but there's a reason they're in a gang because it sucks to be living on the streets and not having anyone and
Mhm.
living like Mercy, like living gang to gang, person to person, just jumping around, just trying to find something because she has nothing really,
Yeah. I mean, like that kind of like living day to day. Not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't really like, because there's so many of those characters throughout the whole film. You're not really like focusing on that. And yeah, it's such a weird place to put it. Like right there. Like they're not even all like reunited. and they're not even all the way like on their way back to Coney Island just yet. But it's I don't know, like and Mercy goes to like kind of like fix her hair, and Swan like grabs her hand and like pulls it down and like don't like I actually like love that because he's like you know don't try to like hide who you are from these
Yeah.
people. Like these people don't know what life is out here. They're living in a dream world almost because it's like two couples that clearly just got out of the prom. They're all in their ruffles, like
Yep.
lots of ruffles, and they're all dressed up and it's strange, yeah, because because they're probably the same age and living completely different lives.
And it's weird because it's such a weird take on satire that you never expect in that movie, right? You're not thinking that the movie is going to really tell that message at all.
And in that scene kind of like throws the whole movie now into a different light because now you're thinking like this stuff is happening, not like everybody's living like this. It's like no, there's still like a normal mainstream lifestyle. This is just what happens at night with these people, like, and there's so many of them. I don't know. I think there is like a statement being made at the same time. Like I
Well,
feel
there's
like they're
another
trying
scene where I
to.
thought was interesting where when they I think are getting on the first train they get on where they're like, oh, we made it,
Yep.
and there's this like old
Oh,
lady.
there's people on the train.
Well, there's an old lady just like in the background, just like look, looking like so scared. It's like, but that's people's perception of what a gang is. It's like, yeah, it's scary. It's you don't know what they're gonna do. It's unexpected, but they're really just trying to get home to their home, right? Whatever their home is, their territory. They're not there to totally ruin your life. I mean, they might steal something from you, but I don't think that.
I mean, they're still a gang.
Yeah.
They're still a gang, but they're not. They're just on the train, and yeah, it's like these little moments of intersection between like normal life and then gang life. And
Yep.
I feel like I'm sure somebody has done something on like how similar this is actually to New York City gang life in the 70s. So, I mean, like we grew. I mean, it wasn't until not terribly long ago where like going through Times Square was like dangerous. Like that was within our lifetimes. Like Times Square changed into this like theme park kind of thing for Broadway and
Yeah, New York
like
City was really really bad in the mid '80s, and then somehow in the '90s it kind of cleaned itself up. They changed the subway system, they renovated things, and it just. I remember the first time I visited New York City, like the subway experience was way different because I went there when I was like second grade to see the landmarks for the first time, right? And
Yep.
I remember even just from that perspective to the next time I went there again, like I think it was way later, and going in the subway was like I almost felt safer in New York City than I felt in Utica. It was weird because I'm like there's just so many people around. I walked around the streets and like at night, and I just like I went on the subway once because I was an adult then. I'm just like wow, I don't really feel that. It's like so bright, right? You can see everything around
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Versus
we didn't grow up with the seedy like porno theaters all up Times Square, like prostitution. We didn't grow up with any of that. We didn't like it was within our lifetime like that stuff was like stopped. I don't know exactly what happened, but the only theory that I've heard is that Rudy Giuliani had the homeless secretly killed. Is the only like, but it is something like they did start cracking down a lot more, especially in that area, and they turned Times Square into like a tourist attraction instead of just letting it be what it was. Part of me still kind of likes the old kind of grungy New York look. Just not like personally. I'm sure I wouldn't enjoy it if I was walking through it and getting mugged or being chased by a gang of mimes. But but I mean, like there is something like aesthetically cool about that, like because all I know is the Times Square that everybody knows now, and to think like not terribly long ago it was like a seriously dangerous place to be.
Well, name a movie that has a non-grungy New York City that's good.
Non-grungy New York City that is good. I don't know, but it would have to come out in the like mid 2000s in that dead movie era we talked
Well,
about.
okay, I got one. Home Alone 2. There you go. We got it. Wait, scratch that.
Oh,
Donald Trump's in that movie. We're not gonna
yeah,
talk about
scratch
that
that one.
anymore.
Scratch that. I was gonna say something about it, and I was like, well, at least Tim Curry's in it, I guess.
Yeah.
And Rob Schneider.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Um.
Anyways, that's a
Okay.
weird segue.
All right. We gotta talk about the punks. They're the gang with the overalls. I love the overalls gang and their roller skates. They're very fun, and they look like they like to have old-fashioned fun, like play skee ball or ring toss or something. Justin, they're dressed like toddlers.
Yeah.
With their Oshkosh Bagosh. Like, all of them are dressed in overalls. They look like big toddlers.
Amber was like laughing about them so much.
They're like a fierce gang, too. They're like really strong, like, and good fighters. That was another good fight
this
between them and the
understanding
Warriors.
of like the levels of games, is that just from the game? Is that from the video game?
No,
Like,
because the game, when you get to this point, it is the movie. You are just playing through the movie. It doesn't give you anything extra.
So how do you know
Like,
the levels of what gang is what? And
I was just saying because they're tough. Like, because it took them, like, they get a lot of hits and they get, like, messed up. Like, Swan gets held down and beaten for a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, like, because it's a tough fight. Like, that's all. Like, just based on the fights from the movie.
So wait,
because the baseball Furies seemed really tough. And They had baseball bats, but they made kind of short work of them.
They weren't all together then either. Too, they were all together at the end here.
Mm-hmm. And you had like them united, and they were really fighting, and it was a real like rumble, and it was still tough.
But I that plan of them dealing with them. So like the Swan and her, because before that they get chased by cops, and they have a little scene in the subway system.
Yep, they go in the tunnel.
The little romantic scene of just like.
That's the only part of the movie I'm like, really?
I joked about it. It's like Amber's like, this is better chemistry than Anakin and Padme. I mean, it really is.
It is. At least you understand it.
And I do like. I mean, it's not like the kiss they do, like the whatever makeout session they have. It's not like it's not great.
A lot of head movement.
But like the shot of the subway light behind them is actually cool.
Yeah.
Like that's nice. You know.
There's some great like visual storytelling too. When she's like. She was like, "Come on, man," and he's like, "I don't think so." And like red light, like behind him from the train. And it's like, "Yep, stop." It's like throw a wrench in the works, and then it changes again, and then they make out. It's like, what is Swan's motive? He just became war chief. It's like, and he's like, "I don't know. Maybe I'll get out of the city." I don't know. He's like looking for like a real companion. She like they kind of like see each other as like both kind of on the same level in terms of like intelligence maybe, and they I don't know. It's very weird. It's strange. I'm not going to vouch for it.
But you know what?
But yeah, it is a more convincing love story than Padme and Anakin. Yes.
Well, at least
I concur.
Yeah.
Based on episode 2.
Based on episode 2. They fleshed that out. They fixed it in other ways.
Clone Wars and episode 3 do it just fine.
Okay, sorry, I had to bring Star Wars somewhere here and here.
You're wearing the shirt. Isn't that enough?
So is this when we finally get home? Are they finally home now after?
Yep,
after
the encounter with the punks. Then
so
you have the train.
So the punks plan to fight them. It's like, oh, that's the men's room. I was like, get in here.
Oh yeah, Mercy is like, wait a minute, I can't go in there.
That's the men's room. But like their plan, stupid. What was their plan? Like what was their plan? Like let's go hide in the stalls.
We're gonna fight. Let's try to get the element of surprise. That's the only thing I could think of. Is like let's all stand on the toilet seats and wait. Like and they'll think we escaped through a hatch. I don't know. Like. But Rembrandt gets his spray. He sprays the dude in the face.
That's a good fight, though. I like that fight. It's a good one.
It is. There's a lot of like mirror smashes and like sinks broken and people getting thrown up onto sinks and door. Like the last person to get beaten, it gets thrown through the bathroom door and the door smashes. A lot of good practical effects and stunt work, I gotta say, in this movie too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that definitely like. Makes it feel real. Even though you can see like some of the punches are very far away from the faces.
Yeah.
The sound is really good, and I don't know. They make it. They sell it. They make it work. And so they finally do get home. Then you have the scene with the prom kids, I think, on the train. But they do get home.
That's after the fight. Okay, I wasn't sure when that happened.
Yep. I think so. No, I'm not so sure, but
well, they're really
they
beat
do
up.
get
It's
home.
gotta be because like
Sun is rising.
Swan's like beaten up. Like Swan's got a big like gash in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when like
that's from the punks.
Yeah, and I think that's when like you got like what's his name sleeping. Rembrandt I think fell asleep on it, and they're all like just passed out on the train.
Oh, Cowboy! Yeah, Cowboy's passed out. Yep. Because they're on their way home and they think it's over, but they know that they've been because they heard from the Lizzies. They know that they were accused of killing Cyrus, and who's waiting for them but Luther and the Rogues, right? So they go.
Well, before that though, you got to see. We didn't talk about this. It's like a little quick one where somebody comes up to the Riffs, right, and says, "Oh, this person needs to talk to you." He said he saw who shot Cyrus.
So the other eyewitness, right? So not until the very end. And I was like, why did it take so long? And I'm like, actually, it didn't take so long. Because if this guy, like, found out, like, oh, the person who did it was a warrior, he's like, was that guy a warrior? And he's like, what did the warriors look like? Like, did this guy, like, behind the scenes, this informant, was, like, finally, like, figured out, he's like, wait a minute, that wasn't a warrior, that was a rogue. And he's like, I must speak to the Riffs immediately. And so, yeah, he shows up and he's like, actually, it was somebody else. You didn't actually hear that scene, but it's just enough to know, like, he knows who did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you get the beginning of what you think is going to be a big battle between them, between the warriors and the rogues. Right on. They go under a pier and they start to arm themselves, right? It's like, I was thinking, like, as I'm watching this, I'm like, this is probably their, like, tactic too. Like, I'm gonna take them to the pier, and then we're gonna take them down to the ocean. So they go to a place where they know they can find weapons. They like find bottles. They got like pipes and wooden boards, maybe with nails through them.
Yeah, Mercy I think gets the bottle. She like smashes it or something like that.
And then Swan has produced a switchblade, and so they wait for the rogues and. He challenges like, Luther one-on-one.
Yeah, I'm packed. Are you packed? I'm packed. He just flicks it. He just like he sticks it in his belt. Like it's the most awkward.
It's such an awkward thing. It's like, why wouldn't you just keep it? Opens the switchblade, and then I'm gonna awkwardly shove it in my back belt, like. But I guess it comes in handy because Luther goes to shoot him because Luther's chosen weapon for their one-on-one fight is a gun. So
which no
Swan
one else
takes
has.
out the knife. Throws it.
I wonder if there's like really big gun laws back in this weird future where it's like no one has a gun except for Luther.
They really are. I think they're considered a heavy gang because they have a car and a gun. But the only things that that other gangs don't. Nobody else can afford a car or a gun. But Luther goes to shoot him. Right, and he does. The gun goes up.
Yeah.
Nobody is harmed, even though they're all crowded together.
This is
but somehow Swan manages to dodge a bullet and throw a switchblade that was in his belt, and it hits him in the gun hand. But yes, and you see that big glob of ketchup on his hand. But I do love, like, Swan comes and takes the blade out and then wipes it clean on his hair. Like, you disgust me, you know?
But no, the one thing that makes me laugh, and I feel like we laughed together when we first watched this, and I don't remember, but like, it's like you have this whole scene with him doing that, and then it just cuts away, and you see 1 million people just like looking into the ocean.
All the Riffs have just tiptoed down to the ocean because he just goes. All of a sudden, it cuts to Masai and the Riffs. He's like, Riffs! And they're like, yeah, right! And there's, like 100 of them. And they walk all down the beach. I love that scene, too, because Swan is standing there and, like, 100 people are walking towards him, and he doesn't, like, move at all. He just stands there, and he's like, are you still looking for us? And they're like, we found what we're looking for. It's like, the rest is ours.
You warriors are good. You're real good. The best.
I know, right? Like, they're ballsy. They're like, no. The best.
And then the end of the movie, like, is them just walking in the beach and just like walking down the beach and holding hands. Like it's like
Mercy
Mercy
and
and Swan
Swan
are
are
holding
holding
hands,
hands,
and it was
and the other
really,
guys get splashed by a wave.
yeah.
How fun! They're
Well,
walking
it
on
was really
the
funny. It's like
shore.
Amber's like sitting there still staring. She's like, "Why am I still watching this? Why am I still watching this?" He's like, and all of a sudden it's like them just walking. I think she looked away, and then all of a sudden she sees that they just like disappear. She's like, "Where'd they go? What happened?" I'm like, "They just walked over the bank. You know, the Earth's round.
Yeah,
It
they're not
goes
gone.
down."
Don't worry. The Warriors will return. In the game, it definitely takes a little bit of the mystique out of the Warriors because you're robbing and mugging and killing people, like
Oh.
or seriously hurting people like throughout the game. So a little bit of the mystique of them being these kind of like your protagonists, your sympathetic heroes are kind of taken out. That's the only drawback I'd say about the game is like it explained too much, whereas the movie is a solid movie because it's great at telling this story
Yeah,
and just this story.
you really need to read the
Um,
book. I'm surprised. You said it's hard to find, right?
I didn't say it was. Well, I don't know. I've just never seen a copy of it. I don't know where. I mean, I'm sure I could find a copy if I really try. But no, I've never read it. It's like I don't know if it's like loosely based on it or if there's like some things that were changed and some things that weren't. I don't know. I'll check it out and I'll get back to you. I'll let you know. Maybe we'll do a follow up to this. No,
I'm just surprised that
we will not.
I'm more just like you. This is like one of your like I wouldn't say your favorite movies, but like
It's up there.
It's up
It's definitely in my top 10, if not the top 5 movies. I love this movie, dude. And don't you appreciate it though? I feel like from like a visual, a
Yeah.
musical, and like sound effects, like everything about this movie
Yeah.
is like done with care. It could have been just a crappy movie,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like I was introduced to it as like, oh, this is a silly movie because it was like I didn't even know about this movie. My brother had seen it when he was younger, and it was like, oh, let's try to find this movie. It was really funny. I remember this dude with the bottles who did this thing, and we were like, what the hell are you talking about? And when we eventually found it, I was like, I like this. Like, I like this a lot. This is really good.
Yeah, I
And the
think.
copy that I have was actually a gift from him for Christmas one year. My
Aw.
my special edition copy of the Warriors DVD.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that like we realized. Like, I think I don't know why I didn't notice it when I first saw it. I mean, who knows where my head was at when we watched this the first time. But like watching this last night, which I watched kind of on YouTube because it was like so we could find it. But it just visually just really kind of stunned me. And it's like the one thing Amber said is like it's like no matter what, like the acting is good, like the acting works, right? All the characters really kind of sell their parts.
Yep.
I'm not saying they're going to win Oscars or anything like that.
No, it's kind of weird, but they're all weird, so it feels like that's what's normal.
Yeah, and it's
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, but no, it's kind of like it's like saying like the actors of any kind of dated movie like that, as long as it fits the world, it works because it's again it's different, it's unique, it's weird. The dialogue's off, so it's like you don't really know how they're supposed to say it anyway. So
Yep.
you're already in that world. I like Amber's like it works too because it doesn't matter the dialogue's weird because it's the 70s, so like you don't really it doesn't really affect you too much for some reason. I think it's because you don't know really any of the actors, so you don't expect some sort of way of acting or like the storytelling kind of is different too, like the pacing and the formula of the movie. So the whole time you're just really not there's no expectations. There's no like, oh, this is like the cookie cutter way of making these kind of movies. It's like no, this is like its own thing. And I think that's really why it works so well because the dialogue is it's consistent. There's a consistency through it. You don't really say if they're going to use the word wasted for dead, they're going to say wasted the whole time. It's like almost like
everybody uses the language.
Yeah, it has there's not like it doesn't vary between gang or whatever. Like the only variation is like the costuming and that makes them a gang, but the terminology is the same. It's
so this shared language of people who work the streets, right? Of all like gang culture. And it's thrown into contrast when you do see those prom kids, right? Just as an example, because you're like, oh, like they do kind of. That's why they stick out as a sore thumb, not just because of their ruffles and because they look nice, but also like the way that they talk. They're just like, oh, it was such a great time. Oh, let's go get some breakfast. And you're like, you've been hearing the way they've been talking the whole movie.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
hear them, you're like, whoa, like it is very jarring because it kind of throws the whole thing into I don't know, like stark contrast, and you're thinking like this way of talking is this kind of shared language and culture of gang life, but
But the
there they
reason it
have
works though is because they almost teach you the language as you're watching it. Like, you know, it's like
it.
you can't just have a different language of a movie and then expect the viewer to really comprehend it. Like there is a subtlety to it where the dialogue, the delivery, like use the other word choices they do to kind of connect the dots. It's like it's their body language that really sells it. Like we talked about how they say the phrases of like, you know, getting with a girl in this movie. Like you get it because of their language and their delivery, right? The body language is there. It's like, oh,
Yep.
I know what they're saying. I get that,
Yeah,
even though it's a weird concept to it.
when like Vernon says like we're gonna get made right here, and he's like all worried, you're like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, like that means that's bad.
Yeah,
Getting made is bad,
yeah,
you know, like just like that kind of stuff, and then you realize like, oh, getting made means like getting spotted or being followed.
hmm
But just to let you know, I'm sure that you would not find this surprising, but on Rotten Tomatoes, The Warriors sits at a comfortable 90%, a nice A minus in terms of movies, and I
yeah,
think it would be worth anybody to check this movie out
yeah.
because
I
it's
mean,
fun. It's not very long. It's 90 minutes, like 93 minutes or something. It's a tight hour and a half. You get in, get out, compelling characters, fun stuff, just like generally
and
like
you don't
no
even have
other movie
to.
you've ever
And
seen.
here's the thing: it doesn't even matter when it's made. Like this movie could have been made now in
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. It
yeah,
could have
and it could be about gangs at that time, or
because
just about like gangs in the 80s and
there's
the
nothing
70s.
that's like dated about it except for maybe like the quality of the film itself. Like it's
Hmm.
like it is a '70s movie, but like and maybe the hairstyles a little bit, but like not really. And
Not really, no.
it's crazy. Like one thing I kind of noticed about the movie too is like the major like diversity of the film, considering the time that it was made.
Hmm.
It's like the Warriors are very balanced in regards to black white. You have a huge gang of black people. You have a huge gang of white people. You have every
Yep.
single like race and ethnicity in this movie for the most part.
And then there are a lot of gangs that are just mixed. There are just like gangs of dudes, you know, of like of all different like races. It seems. Like one was not the. I'm trying to remember if it was which gang it was. Some of the gangs like the Saracens, maybe like
The ones in
the
the bus,
Hurricanes
the,
are like
the
those are like the Latino gang, and then like this one is the Black gang, and then this one is like what seems like a skinhead gang, like the Turnbull ACs. But there are black and Hispanic guys in it too, so you're like, this is just like the tough guys gang. Then there's like the biker gang. Like it doesn't. It's like whatever reason that they became a gang. Like that's like reflects why like why those
the
members
baseball
are
Furies
members.
they don't see race because they just paint their.
No, they just paint their face. Yes, they paint it all away. But I mean, like even the punks who were just looked like a bunch of farm boys with overalls. There's several different. I mean, like there's. I know that there is. I think there's a black guy who's on there in their gang. It's so weird, like thinking like some of the gangs are racially delineated, but some of them are just not. They're just like a group of people, like
hmm
the Warriors. The Warriors seem to have like a mix of white, Hispanic, um, African American. I can't think of. I don't think anybody.
Jewish is that Vermin? He seems
I think.
Jewish.
Well, I was gonna say the Fox maybe because just like stereotypically, he's the one like really in charge behind the scenes. But
Mhm.
no, no, maybe no, not Vermin because he is kind of a Woody Allen type of character. It's weird having a guy like that in a gang. Like, how did you get here? Why are you doing this? Like, you don't belong. You don't belong here.
Oh man,
But
it's good stuff. No, this is a good one. I was glad to
it is a
rewatch it.
great film. I sincerely hope everybody gets a chance to see this. And to just close us out here, I'll leave us with the words of the DJ. As she says, the very first time when she plays a song for the Warriors, she tells them to be looking out for themselves. Be looking good, warriors. All the way back to Coney. You hear me, listeners? Good. Real good. Adios. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin.
Bye-bye.